Hi everybody, and that was a big surprise to all of us because I forgot to press the go live button. Uh, Luckily, I got there before the countdown ended. So, welcome to this infrequent episode of Table Ready Livestream. It says there's nobody actually watching, so that doesn't matter. Hi, nobody.
Hello.
Hello. Anyway, so this week we are going to talk about Team Yankee dynamic points, amongst other things. But you'll notice I'm Harry from Fog of War. Next to me is
I'm
the illustrious,
Adam from Dice of War.
and we are joined today by Ben, my erstwhile East German opponent and Team Yankee player, who has stepped up to volunteer to fill in the role that Christian vacated. So everybody give a big welcome to Ben.
Yeah, good evening, guys. Good to be here.
So
Yeah,
Ben,
we were saying,
yeah,
Christian is too successful with this podcast, so he's gone.
so how about you tell us a bit about yourself for those of you who only know you as my East German nemesis?
Okay. Well, I'm Ben. I got into Flames of War, Team Yankee a few years back, and I've been getting into Flames of War for the last event. So I got East Germans, and I tried out my Hungarians at the last event that you guys held. So yeah, no, it's definitely a good hobby.
And your Hungarians, I seem to recall, were very, very nice. Didn't you? You 3D printed a bunch of them.
Yeah, well, getting a hold of because when I wanted to play Hungarians, I wanted to play like the unique tanks like the Turans and the Toldis and the Zrinjis.
Yeah.
So you can get heaps of Panzer IVs and Panthers, but you can't. Getting a hold on those blisters of the Turans and the Toldis was just so difficult. So in the end, I had to get them 3D printed. So yeah, they come out really nice.
They worked really well too.
Good. I certainly haven't got 20 Turans sitting in the box.
Oh, well, it's fun, if you're on Axis and the Allies are used to playing against, like Panzer IVs and stuff, and you put them down and they're like, oh, what are these?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're cool little weird looking vehicles. And in saying that, I've been collecting them for years and years and years and years. So, I mean, and some of them are painted, some of them are still in blisters.
So before we get on with what we're going to talk about this evening, how about we talk about what we've been doing? Adam, what have you been up to? You had some more dice sets, decal sets. Have we talked about those?
So I got some more decal sets made. They're all primarily British mid-war decal sets for the desert in Tunisia, Italy, or Sicily. So there's some stuff for the Valentines, Australian Armour Brigade, Infantry Division, 7th Armoured, armoured cars, also really kind of niche sort of stuff that I know I've always been looking for. So I went, damn it, okay, fine, I'll just make them.
I've been so slack I haven't even ordered them. I really, really want some of those T numbers from you, so I'll have to get on the website and make that happen.
No worries. But also I'm playing Cairns in the Australian Nationals this month.
Oh, is that the one at the Australian Armour and Artillery Museum?
Yep. So I've been painting together a weird kind of Hungarian army for that. So I'm using a Hungarian rifle brigade, some Zrinjis, some Hungarian Hetzers, and some German Jag Panthers. They seem to be one of those big cats that no one ever takes because they were generally, either overpointed or now like you may as well just take a Panther because it's pretty much the same thing, except the Jag Panther doesn't have a turret, so it has downsides. So I like taking weird things like that. So it should be an interesting little list. I'm not expecting I should win, but it gets my stuff painted and it's fun. So that'll be on the 25th.
Yep.
26th, 27th, 28th at the Armour Fest. The Australian Artillery.
Oz Armour Fest.
Yeah, Oz Armour. Well, it's where they held Hold
Oz Armour Fest, but not at Oz Armour Fest. Okay.
So yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, they held one at Parola in Finland, right? The Armour Museum.
I don't know if Battlefront did, but I think maybe the Finnish Wargaming
Yeah.
did. Yeah,
Right.
and I know other places. Like I think there was one at the German Army Museum or maybe SEMA, or I can't remember. So yeah, I think they're awesome venues to have these sort of events, and
so is it out on the floor with all the tanks all around?
Yep, yeah. So you they'll usually park around the Panther and the Panzer IVs and all the cool stuff all around it. And I believe the winner for the Flames of War one gets a ride in a Panzer IV as well. So
nice.
Yeah, should be cool.
Oh, Frank. So when I said there was nobody here, it was telling me there were 0 people, but lots of people have turned up and they were saying they were here from the start. Frank says he hasn't got a clue about Team Yankee, but he's here for the chat.
Excellent. That's our Finnish friend.
Yep, absolutely. Hello there. And Spammer is saying, quick question, can the Czechs use T-62 in Team Yankee? I know they manufactured them, but never used them officially. Don't know. Don't recall that at any point.
They did have like an armor industry that they built for the Third World, but they never used them themselves.
Because they built lots and lots of T-55s.
Yep.
I mean, Africa is full of Czech-built T-55s. And so was the Middle East, I seem to recall.
Yeah, I think Iraq got lots of Scots and that sort of thing too.
Right, okay. Anyway, so that was Adam. And Ben, what have you been up to?
Oh, I've got my, good thing we're talking about, I've got my T-72Bs on the go, so they're almost done.
Oh, I saw some of those on the painting table. So
a lot of them.
You coming along with those?
Yeah.
So Ben and I have been threatening to have a catch-up in a game for ages, but I haven't been building my Australian army, which is very embarrassing. But I did finally print some of the 3D stuff to get the M1A1s up to scratch for Australia. So now I have some M1A1 AIM-SAs with the very important Trailblazer fridge and the APU.
They look really good, Harry.
Yeah. I would probably print the APUs like 5% smaller. They're just a tiny bit too big.
Okay.
But yeah, the racks are fantastic. They were good. And unfortunately, those aren't regularly available. The guy who's building them is still working on them as far as I know, but he gave me a bit of a sneak peek. So, and what I've been working on... Sorry, Ben, were you done with what you've been working on?
Just my T-72Bs, yep.
Sorry, I've just been steamrollering all over you with that. What I've been working on is we have Winterfest coming up next weekend, which is a 2-day Dungeons & Dragons festival that I help run. And I've been painting like mad. So this is Game of Bones. So this is the Undying King for my adventure that I'm running on the first day. So him and 20 other skeletons, and my wife had me painting a beholder today, and we're just trying to get everything ready for what's going on. So that's what I've been up to.
Who makes that guy?
That's a Reaper.
Okay. I thought it might have been a Reaper. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have lots of Reaper miniatures in my old Warhammer Fantasy armies and D&D characters.
Yeah, no, Reaper are great. They also tried to sell me a Dwarf King on a throne as well, and I don't need one, but damn, that's looking nice.
Yeah, Halkamalui. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, that one?
Yeah.
Sponsored the prizes, but he's the organizer. Well, there we go. Hey, man. Welcome to the live stream. Parola Armour Museum. Excellent.
Yeah, no, I've been there before. It's really good.
Yeah, I've made some special.
I got to see the King Tiger there. So
sweet.
Right.
They had it on loan from Bovington or the Tank Museum. So
Mm.
yeah, no, it's huge.
Yeah, I think until you get next to like something like the Tiger or the Panther, you don't realise how huge they are, like compared
Yep.
to something puny like the little, even the M5 Stuart, which you'd think, and then you go, well, how the hell did they squeeze so many people in those tanks as well
Yep,
with the armour and
absolutely.
all the gear?
Oh,
So,
so I went to one of the Armour Tank Fest days in at the Bovington Tank Museum, and I don't fit inside a Panzer III turret, apparently. I have a big picture of me sitting outside with my legs in the turret because they can't get me through the hatch. And like, I'm big, but I'm not enormous, so yeah, I think you had to be a smaller tanker to do that.
yeah, maybe you had the Grant side doors or something. But
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, we're still not talking about dynamic points and stuff. James is saying Anzac forces could change A4 Skyhawks for FA-18 and Mirage 3. You could do the Mirage 3 because they've got a model of it, but the problem would be the Battlefront would have to get a kit for it. For Anzac
Yeah, no,
forces.
Academy
Is
doesn't
that...
do the Hornet. I
No,
think so.
Platts do a Hornet because I bought a bunch of them. They do a 2-in-1 kit, but the Platts kits are not cheap. So I can't see them forking the mold over to Battlefront for a while. But I mean, they do have the Mirage they use for the Israelis. They could do that. Trekan says, during the Iran-Iraq War, the Iraqis preferred the T-55 built in Poland to Czechoslovakia over the Soviet-built ones. Yep. Strong Soviet metal. James says he found an F-111 in 144. Yeah, there was a Chinese manufacturer that... I've got one of those in my stash somewhere. What do we got? Operation Nordic Lion 25 in Parola is coming, but the dates are still open. So, anybody who wants to go there and play in Parola, there you go. You heard it here last.
That'd be nice.
That would be fun.
It's really good. They've got 2 sheds, and then they've got a whole outdoor section with like German, Soviet, and also I think there's 3 British tanks there. So they got, I think, a Cromwell, one of those Conqueror. No, not Conqueror. What's
Challenger?
Yeah, Challenger.
Yeah, the 17 Panda ones. Yep.
Yeah.
In fact, there was some of them in service somewhere in one of the Nordic countries. I can't remember which.
I think that must have been Finland.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, they got so much stuff there.
Has anyone made good on finding those 1/100th planes I suggested? Not sure what you suggested, Spamerai. Maybe mention that again in a minute. But we should get started because we're 13 and a half minutes in and we've just been wobbling on. So what we want to talk about this stream is dynamic points for Team Yankee. Now, the plan had been we were going to talk about D-Day. But that was a while ago now, and this came out, and we all just suddenly decided about a week or so ago that we would just pivot to this and do our thing. So I hope that's all good with you guys, but we want to talk about who the winners and losers are for dynamic points. So shall we look at what we do know? Oh, wow, you can barely read that. Sorry, gang, that's a real contrast fail. So the dynamic points PDF is available now. Now, I believe, Adam, it's just talking about tanks and AA mostly. There's one or two other things, but...
Yeah, so I think similar like they did with mid-war dynamic points, they only tinkered with certain things, not everything.
Which makes sense.
Unless it was egregiously over-underpointed. Because they want to not change everything, so you can see, well, what does this change do to this?
Yep.
Then reflect the meta, whatever. So mostly it's tanks and AA. I think there's the odd little other thing, but yeah, mostly tanks and AA.
And Ben, you've been with us having a look at this over the last week or so.
Yep.
we're not talking 1 or 2 points here, are we? We're talking about you were tracking how many
Yes.
points per tank, and it's
Yeah,
made a
'cause-
really big difference.
Yeah, because the Soviets get such huge units. Once you're down to the 10 tank units, the differences are pretty significant.
Yep.
Well, in all the like the high end like West German, French, and US high end tanks, they're getting significant discounts as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's made a real big difference. So tanks are generally cheaper, not all of them, but the tanks that are mentioned in the PDF generally have had a points cut.
Yeah, it's
and
interesting. Like the Leopard 2 they've played with for the West Germans, but they haven't touched the Leopard 1.
yeah,
And the same with the French, like they've touched the Leclerc, but they haven't touched the AMX 30.
yeah, I noticed there was no AMX 30.
So it kind of suggests that they were pretty happy with those sort of early tanks, MBTs.
Yep.
But the later ones, obviously, there was some sort of points creep in there that they've gone, yeah, they're just, people just either weren't using them because they're too expensive most of the time.
Yeah, and again, if your meta is taking lots and lots of T55s, then yeah, I think they're pointing the big, shiny, sexy tanks wrong. That's not a dig at your East Germans, Ben. They are supposed to have T55s. That's how that worked. But, you know, if the Soviets go, nah, sod these T80s, give me some more T55s.
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
T62s were pretty popular, the Soviet T62Ms.
So that gives you some indication that there needs to be a tweak here and there. So what was the biggest increase anybody saw? Mine was 133% that I saw, so something more than doubled in cost.
Mine was bigger. I'm just trying to find the spreadsheet. I think it's on. Yeah, the Leclercs and the Leopard 2s had significant. I think it was 130 something. Yeah, but I'm not sure. I'll have to have a look.
Yeah, so there were significant decreases, but I was thinking about the AA got a lot more expensive, some of it.
Yeah, the Roland's got almost doubled in price.
Yeah, and tracked rapiers were 133%. Still think they'd be worth it at that, but we'll have a look at that in a minute.
Well, yeah, I'll leave my thoughts for this for later. But that some things. Anyway, yeah, I'll talk about it later.
All right. So I'll just round this bit off then by saying the PDF is currently for discussion, so it is not a done deal. They've said, this is what we think, and they've put it out. So it's not live, it's not up on Forces, and there is, significantly, and I think a few people have missed that, there is a feedback form online where they're asking you to go on, give them feedback about all the different units. Is the increase or decrease too much, not enough, just right?
Yeah.
Is there something they've missed?
Yeah, so and just commenting on the Facebook post isn't going to help anything. If you've actually got genuine, I think this should be repointed, or you've got this wrong, or this other unit really needs to get changed, then yeah, please use the Google feedback form. That's the best way to get that information, because they will look at that Google feedback form. I've done it
absolutely.
Yeah.
So Finnish AAGM's got hammered bad, 66% increase. Yeah, I haven't actually looked at the Finnish stuff yet. I was concentrating on other things, but yeah, we might have a look at that. So let's move on a bit. What do we got next? So before we actually do dynamic points, new plastic infantry. So this got released on Facebook this week, I believe. That's some sprue shots. So we had some sprue shots of the Soviets months and months and months ago, but this is the first sprue shot I've seen of the US infantry. I don't know if that's just because I missed it or whatever. Has everybody had a look at this?
Yeah, okay.
So we've got
I can only
Dragon.
see the army man walkie-talkie guy.
So we've got a sitting dragon guy, and we do have a guy with, so there's 2 extra dragon launchers there. There
Just a dude without a head at the
Oh,
back.
yeah, maybe him, yeah? Not sure. And The guy in the upper right seems to have a flower coming out of the end of his M16, so I don't know if he's like a
No,
peacenik guy from...
that's a sprue bit. So like this, I've actually got a Soviet hard plastic sprue, not new ones, World War II ones, and the PPMG. It's got that end on it.
Right.
So you chop it off.
It's a pressure relief hole. Yeah,
Yes,
okay, fair enough.
Well, it is a good place for it. You can cut it nice and clean and straight.
Yes.
Yeah, that is cool. That's too bad. I wanted a guy with a flower coming out of the end of his M16.
You can leave
I suppose I could.
Love is all around, man.
All right, so that's what the plastic infantry are looking like. And they also showed the Marines. So I was wondering whether...
Crayons.
Yeah, that's right. They got extra crayons because they got extra orifices to put them in.
So that big bazooka thing is a S-small?
Gotta look it up.
Top middle.
Yeah, I know which one you mean. I looked at it. Is it AT4?
Oh, it says.
Or it could be a
AT
small.
something.
It just says AT with an arrow. So it's some sort of anti-tank missile.
Yeah, there's a law launcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, the law ones, yeah.
Yeah, the 66mm law's there. The other one is some other kind of larger ATGM. We got a mortar guy. These guys get M60s instead of Minimies for the army.
Hey, that's interesting. Did you see where they were produced?
No.
Yeah, Poland, yeah.
Made in Poland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Polish guys.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's good. So I was wondering whether or not you could use these guys for NAM as well, but they don't have M1 pattern helmets. They've got Kevlar.
I think only you would notice that, Harry.
Yeah, sorry.
You can paint them. I'm sure most people will be like, yeah, these are great.
I was looking at it going, no, can't use them at all.
No, that's it.
Unrealistic. Yeah, no, forget it. Can't do it at all. Oh, dear. Oh, man. All right, now that I've been thoroughly humiliated, shall we move on? Okay, let's start talking about tanks. So we gave this one to you, didn't we, Adam?
Yes.
What did you find out? Please tell us what happened.
Yeah, found out that you can have a look. So you look at the bottom, the standard M1 that came out, I guess, in the first Team Yankee. Looks like they're obviously pretty happy with those points. They've given them a slight reduction.
Yeah, they didn't tweak those much, did they?
No. But as you can see, when you go up to something like the M1A1HC, and yeah, they've gone. Yeah, they're definitely too expensive. So you get some like 4 M1 Abrams. Used to be 72 points for the M1 A1HC. They're now 46 points. So it's 26 points you can spend on. I don't know, more M60s, more infantry, more stuff.
One AA unit now.
or one chaparral unit. Yeah. So it's pretty clear here that they've gone, yep, we've overpointed. And I think it was not, to me, it's not that they've gone, they've obviously gone, people who are spamming T55s or T62s or even, things like a Leopard 1 and an AMX. And maybe not to the same extent, but a lot of things like a BMP 2 or 3 spam. And you've got these higher tier or higher level tanks that are just too expensive if we point them the same that we pointed all the other stuff earlier.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of thinking for a while they probably should have done for Team Yankee more like a mid-war.
Yeah, a late and early.
For Team Yankee. And I guess they've decided not to do that. And this is their way of going, well, all right then. If we're not going to do that because we don't like how that works with the system, we're just going to have to basically, not artificially, but in all cases, anything that's in this later period, we're going to bring the points down. Yeah. So you can actually have something. Because really, I think if you're going to get hit by one of these, or they get hit. You know, if you've got only 3 tanks for 54 points, and someone kills you with a frog foot, you're just as dead if you with something else. So I can understand why they've done it. I think they might have been better off in hindsight doing it the other way, but I mean,
that is an interesting point, because I was just thinking that as you were making that point, that part of the problem is we have a generation shift.
Yeah.
And what we do have, and I'm going to ask Ben for his point of view on this, is I have played my guys against his East Germans. And when I take equivalent stuff, it's a very close race. When I take super tanks, it was a lot harder. Ben, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, well, just we talked about the bloke at the FLGS that we were at. He comes over and has a look at our deployments and goes, "Where's all your stuff, Harry?" And you're like, "That's it.
This is it. I've got my 4 tanks."
Yeah.
So we always tell this story, and that was you had like bumper to bumper along the 6-foot line of the table.
T55 formation, yep.
With T-72s in support
and
and BTRs, and it was beautiful. Looked great. And then I put my 4 tanks down and a couple of warriors and went, I'm done.
Yep.
But you were all over me. It was just, I had so much armor, you were having trouble sort of...
Yeah, well...
I think you bailed one of my guys, and then he kept getting back in all the time.
That's always fun. So frustrating for the
that many tanks on the table, it's almost a bit of a farce. It's like Napoleonic warfare, sort of pushing the lines of tanks along. It's just, you could use a bit of a decluttering, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, though, that's how the Soviets wanted to win. They're like, this is how we're going to win. We're just going to have a bazillion tanks, and you're not going to be able to kill them all by the time we get around you. But it just...
But the spacing would be a bit wider than bumper to bumper.
Yeah. And I've seen guys go, oh, well, that's why you should play 6 mil. But then when you look at them, I've seen them play at 6 mil, and they do the same thing. They've just got bigger, more space around where they're doing it, but they still do the same thing.
I was going to say I've never had the bumper-to-bumper problem, but playing NATO, you just never have that as an issue. You just don't get enough things.
Yeah. I remember the first Team Yankee tournament I went to, I was playing West Germans versus a Warsaw Pact player, and I had my 1 Panzer Grenadier platoon, which had about 6 bases, versus a motor rifle company, which was like 15 to 20 something bases once you had, and I couldn't kill enough. It was just walking on the board.
Warsaw Pact players need an assistant player to help them move all the units. It's like, you take that side of the table, I'll take this side of the table.
Yeah, get the movement trays out and stack all the tanks in a line.
Yeah. So, anyway, I mean, look, it's fun. But
So what do you think about the whole late war, early war, though? Because it's not like your East Germans against my chieftains or challengers is not actually unrealistic with T-55.
Yeah, my East German force is
That's not
a
wrong.
1985 plus force, because it's the T-55 AMs that were upgraded. So it's still a historical force against a British historical force.
Yeah, absolutely.
The numbers disparity is just something the game, I guess it would not the game, it'd be the points system. You want to put 2 equivalent forces against each other, but it might be an East German division and a British Army on the Rhine division, and not actually equivalent. So and they sort of cover that with it's companies versus battalions for NATO versus Warsaw Pact.
Although that's always been a nomenclature issue for the Soviets, hasn't it? Even back to World War II. And Trekan's making the very good point that the model scale and the terrain scales in Team Yankee and Flames of War are different, which is why you end up with the models being a bit bumper to bumper, but that's not actually representative of their actual deployment on the table. And that is a good point to make, Trekan. Thanks for that. So is there anything else we want to talk about? So you can get a whole bunch more. So it is about 30% for the very heavy tanks, isn't it? For the M1A1s, the M1A1
roughly.
HCs.
Yep. It probably makes it, if you look at it, probably makes sense to bring those little 3. I would probably now bring a 3 tank unit. 4 tank unit is probably a lot of points, but I think 3 is a sweet spot. But I think it's just it's encouraging you to play more of your toys. So
would you get spanked though if you take a 3 tank unit? You're more likely to get spanked with morale, because that's the issue I find with NATO players. Like when you start with 10 cheaper tanks, it takes a long time, even though they're getting killed every turn, to get to the point where you're dealing with morale rolls than it is when you lose 1.
I trust
2.
my dice a bit, I guess. Like, I'm like,
well, you make them, so I guess you have to, you know.
That's right, yeah. Always use my special dice.
Those ones.
Yeah.
Harry doesn't have any of those.
I don't know. I have special dice, but the different kind of special.
Yeah, Snake Eyes all the time.
All the time. Frank's on here. Frank, I think you won in our dice challenge, but it was pretty bloody close. We did a dice off, and we both suck, Frank and I. All right, so shall we move on to US anti-air?
Yeah, so in general, they've all
everything
doubled,
dropped 50%. Oh, sorry, it's more expensive, 50%.
Yeah, increased.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, up 50%. Except for the ones where it's so cheap that you can't actually do 50% in a 100-point scale, and it spanks them at 67.
Yeah, like the VADs.
Yeah. So we did see some stuff in this. There's a number, and particularly I think Ben did the Warsaw Pact guys for you. They had a bunch of these where, because it's only 1 or 2 points, if you change it, it makes a bigger difference.
With some of the Czech AA units, since they're lower than the standard Warsaw Pact, they went up a little bit more.
Right. So Czech players, sorry about that. Is that going to stop everybody taking AA? What are your guys' thoughts about this?
I don't know, with the Rolands, and I'm not sure, I have to look at the stats a bit harder, they went up like 133%.
So did Tracked Rapier.
And 122 for the bigger, larger unit.
So more than double the cost. Yeah.
Yeah, but something that was more dual purpose, like the Gepards, they went up, but they went up to a point cost only 40%, which I'm still going to take them because they're still going to rip holes in light vehicles, and then they're still going to shoot down other stuff. So to me, I guess it must be the range and the firepower of the big missile units that are dropping airplanes out of the sky, because I think the issue was that people weren't taking planes.
Oh, if I took Tracked Rapier, I would just sweep the sky. Nobody could take a leaf blower list. Because I would just, when you're rolling that many dice, even I have to roll some hits.
Yeah, I think it'll encourage more people to bring planes, but people will still bring AA, because anything that you were paying more for the AA, you're only going to take 1 unit probably of AA.
Yeah.
Whereas your bigger tank units that are now cheaper give you that extra points to take the AA.
Yeah,
it just means that perhaps, people will. I don't know if you mean like rely, but they will.
It'll make it more
encourage you to take it instead of just going, no, they're just going to die.
Although they did make Heinz more expensive. We look at that a little bit in a minute. So when we kill your more expensive Heinz, I mean, I have to use a more expensive unit to do it, but it still makes it worthwhile for the kill, I think.
Yeah.
What does everybody else think about that?
Yeah, well, if you're taking more heavy tanks, then naturally there's going to be probably a lot more fitters, I reckon.
Yeah, fair enough.
A lot more fitters. So you're still going to need the AA to stop the fitters from coming in and launching 6 missiles at your Abrams platoon.
Fair enough. So I'm not cheating here, but with your East Germans, how would you change those based on the AA points difference? I mean, if I've got M1A1s and I can definitely afford a unit of 4 now, does that mean you're going to have more air, or does that mean you're going to bring more Hinds, or?
Probably a mix of T-72Bs and the fitters.
Right, so missiles on the fitters, and you'll go for the
And
more capable tanks.
AT-22,
Yeah.
because
Nope, fair enough.
before T-72B, Warsaw Pact sort of maxed out at AT-21. So with
Yeah,
the T-72B, you just get that one extra AT in the gun.
absolutely. Cool. Well, now that I know what you're going to do to me, that's great. Thank you for that, Ben. What do we got in the comments? With the points increased to AA, does it mean my tawny army is over by 3 points?
Oh no.
Could be. You might have to tweak those 3 points down somewhere. Although if you've got any heavy tanks, I've got good news for you. You've got some stuff coming back. Hard split of eras would divide the player base too much. Yeah, I think that's a valuable point to make too, particularly since we're going to get Checkpoint Charlie, so that's very much early, middle, and late.
I just think if they're going to add more time periods, it's almost going to mean that you're going to need a split. I don't know. But I'm sure there'll be plenty of stuff that you can use in both.
So Robert's saying, I thought Checkpoint Charlie was the early era for Team Yankee. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is going to be. So, but unless they split it away somehow so that you can't play it with any other Team Yankee stuff.
Yeah, is it going to be its self-contained book like NAM or Fate of a Nation?
So if it's you can only play other Checkpoint Charlie lists, then that's fine. But yeah, if it does get rolled into Team Yankee, then yeah, you can play that versus Leclerc or whatever, which would be an interesting thing. I have my IS-3s against some Leclerc. How's that going to work out?
Yeah. If you get enough space, it won't work out well for the IS-3s.
One thing I wish the Aussie list had was inbuilt Australian artillery. Yeah, although...
Yeah, still no towed guns, unfortunately.
No towed guns, so that's not going to happen. I would bet your opponent would be happy if you wanted to 3D print some 105 or 155 mil towed guns and bring them on and agree a points value for them. But yeah, they're going to get stomped if there's helicopters or if there's a breakthrough.
Well, yeah, I wonder how towed arty would work.
I still want my MT-12 100mm guns. Those would be cool. The anti-tank
They would
guns.
be cool.
Yeah.
Frank says, my dice are great from my opponent. Now I use Dice of War dice, so it's getting in a plug. This might be interesting and leads into our current slide. Chieftain is the big loser. T-80s are now cheaper and Chieftain can't fight them. What do we think about that? Because we're now looking at T-80s here. Ben, this was your list. What do you think about that?
So when I first did the math, the first thing that pointed out to me was the escalating discounts the more tanks you're taking in a unit.
Yep.
So it starts off like a pretty modest discount at 3, and then it goes all the way up to 32% at 10. So it's that large unit tax that you're paying, it was most apparent with the Volks Army T-55s, where you could get 3 for 2 points or something ridiculous like that. So I think they're going, no, we're not going to have an escalating points. You're going to play, I think it was 6 points per T-80, and it just goes up linearly. And
right.
So
they've walked back that
main change.
Tank, the tax thing. Yeah, fair enough. And yeah, my Chieftains are going to struggle against T-80s. They really are. But I mean, T-80s are a much more modern tank than Chieftains, so that's not unrealistic.
Yeah, so if you look at it, on the low side, it's only 1 point a tank. But once you get those larger units that you need, the discounts build up heaps.
Yeah. And Ben actually did a whole lot of work that we had to leave out because he used my spreadsheet calculator to calculate out all the Soviet and Warsaw Pact tanks, but
Yeah.
we would have
So
hundreds and hundreds of slides, so we picked this
yeah,
as a
so it's not
representative
just the
one.
T80s. It's it starts at the vanilla T64 and T72s. So
Yeah.
those discounts are a lot more milder than the T64 BVs, the
Yeah.
T72 Bs, and the T80s. But they did do a little bit of work on those earlier tanks too.
So that will make those, because at the moment it's been, oh, nobody takes T72s anymore. Why would
Yeah,
you?
I'm not sure if that'll change because the discounts were pretty minor.
Yeah, fair enough. So it might make them mildly more attractive, but now you can get all sorts of cool
You're
things.
not paying that much more points to, you say, for versus between T72 and T72B, or
Yeah.
more popular would be T64 or T64 BV.
Yeah,
They've got the
absolutely.
better stabilizer. So I'm
So,
not sure we'll see more T72s.
so is the issue with the Chieftain versus the T80 that they just can't penetrate it at range or frontally, or
Sorry, what was that, Adam?
so Mike's saying the Chieftain sucks basically.
Yeah.
T80s are cheaper. What does he mean by you can't fight them?
So what's the anti-tank for a Chieftain?
Yeah,
It's a 120 mil gun. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is. Is it 20? AT-20?
AT-22.
Is it?
Yeah.
And what's the front armor of a T-80?
Armor 17, 18, and T80 is front armor 20 and 22.
So you get at least a 1, so your minimum is 21. So yeah, you have to roll a 1 to kill it.
They'd have to roll a 1.
They'd have to roll a 1 on their armor save to kill it, yeah.
Or you're going to have to get closer. Yeah.
Yep. Fair
the
enough.
Chieftains have trouble moving too, right?
Yeah, well, it's not a speed demon. No, it's not.
Yeah.
But then, hey, Battlefront thinks that the fastest tractor vehicle in the world is can only do like 6 inches or something, the Scorpion.
Oh, yeah, don't get me started on the Cromwell points for World War II.
Yeah, I have an entire Cromwell armoured squadron somewhere, and it sits in its box. But anyway, but I'm just trying to look at the chat as well as we go along. So Trekan's making good points about terrain, which is good. What do we got here? Pushing people to use third-generation tanks. Well, we bought them all. It'd be nice to get them on the table.
Yeah, that was one of the complaints. People building full formations of Abrams and then having to pay 250-point games to put them on the table. So
yeah. Well, they've got Clash of Steel for that now. A lot of stuff that doesn't help it against the T80. Yeah, fair enough. And Rate of Fire 2 doesn't really help here as an example. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's only got a moving of 1, right?
Yeah, probably.
It's going to be moving.
Yeah, because it's got big fat rounds. They're 2-part rounds, aren't they? The 120 mil.
Yeah. Rifle gun.
So, to be honest, they were designed to sit at the edge of a forest, a kilometre away from the edge of a village, and to shoot T-55s before they came into range, and then bugger off and do it again somewhere else.
But also, mind you, the Chieftain and the T80 are like miles apart in when they were designed and built. So, I mean...
Yeah, absolutely.
If you compare it to what's the new one? The
Challenger.
The Challengers, like they'll punch holes in them. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about leaf blowers. So, yeah, here's all again, Ben, this is your work. You've gone through the East Germans, Czechoslovakians, Poles, and the 2 flavours of Soviets there. So they're more expensive by roughly 15 to 20%, aren't they?
Yeah, so for the Warsaw Pact, like AT6 ones, I think it's 1 point model. So it's not not a huge increase.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah, but it is enough that they are just slightly more expensive, because there were an awful lot of people who just bought an awful lot of helicopters. And
Yeah, if you look at, you've got the fat 6 units up the top there. Yeah, that'd be a
yeah,
bit scary.
I think Corey did
Played
that to
against
me in
one
one
person.
game. Somebody turned up with Afghansi, and it was
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah,
there's not enough room on the table to put all the
Yeah.
helicopters on, you know.
Right as Valkyries. I
Yeah.
played against one of those games, and they basically had to take the rotors off the helicopters because they just couldn't fit them on the table with the rotors on the top. So
And particularly the hind rotors are very fragile.
yeah,
Yeah. Iraqi hinds have gone up in cost then. Haven't looked, but I would guess maybe.
yeah,
Don't
they
know.
went up to the same as the Warsaw Pact ones.
Right, yeah. So I'm guessing if people are paying more for the AA, it's worth that the things they're shooting down are a bit more pointy as well, because I mean, that way it's worth the extra points. Like, I'm not just going to leave my track rapier out. I still want to be rolling those 12 dice or whatever it is as soon as the helicopters turn up. And I think that's the point I was just making, wasn't it? Without this price hike, the new increases would make them very scary. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so roughly the similar sort of percentages there in terms of them being tweaked.
I still don't think that's a huge change.
No, not really. When you're looking at it, it's like three.
Yeah.
It's a point a model, basically.
Yeah,
You're saving more on your tanks than you're going to pay extra for the hinds, I reckon.
absolutely.
But this is all trial too. That you might find that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because again, this stuff isn't set in stone, and I'm guessing they're going to do the same thing that they did with Flames of War. They'll bring the dynamic points in, they will freeze them for a year, they will play test the heck out of it, look at all the feedback, figure out what worked and what didn't, and make tweakies for the next year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's, to be honest, Battlefront have made a reasonably good fist at that as a system. I mean, rather than just doing the Warhammer 40k thing of you bring out a new codex and suddenly all the models you paid a lot of money for, you can't field them anymore. They're not even in the book. And
I think they were a bit hesitant to do it at the start because they didn't want to invalidate people's army books.
Yeah.
But I think
$30 for a book. Yeah.
But if you see what they've done now with the D-Day book, if you buy the D-Day book, you also get a voucher that unlocks the lists in forces.
Yeah, which is something that people have been asking for ages.
Yeah. So I think that way, when they do change, if you choose to use the dynamic points, you're not really paying for those. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's worked out okay, because we did our last tournament use dynamic points, didn't it, Adam?
Yep.
Yeah. And that seemed to work just fine. I mean, I'm not talking about whether the points were valid. I'm talking about we didn't have any difficulties with people making lists or any of that. It was
I think there was one person that didn't have the dynamic points, and I was the TR, and I said, "Look, give me your list. I'll convert it, and I'll let you know how many more points you've got to spend." And it worked. So
now, you guys before the stream were talking about so Hinds are the only helicopters that have been adjusted in this. You guys had some suggestions for other helicopters you might have thought we'd see changes for. What were those?
So Johan's mentioned about the Gazelle gunslinger isn't going up.
Yeah, I've heard about.
Oh, here we go.
So
so Ben mentioned the Gazelle.
He did.
Yeah.
And
earlier. Yeah.
So that might, if enough people comment, that perhaps we feel this should go up.
Because I've heard they just fly around with their auto cannons and they'll shoot down the AA before the AA can shoot back. So if AA has gone up,
makes them nasty.
Yeah.
And they're not expensive, really.
No. So in that case, yeah, it would probably be nice if those got tweaked up a little bit. What did you mention, Adam? You were talking about
So
some other
you've got
helicopters, weren't you?
you brought up the links for the British, and I brought up
Yeah,
the German PAH.
the links shouldn't be going up in price. The links need to be going down in
no.
price.
Sorry, but you mentioned the link. Sorry, and
Yeah, absolutely.
I sort of said, well, the same as the PAH for the West Germans, and
that's right.
the Swedish use the same helicopter. So it's basically a move or shoot.
One shot per turn.
One shot per turn. I feel they're too expensive. They should have at least dropped by either in half or by a point.
Yeah.
They're quite limited. Yeah, I would never. I mean, I brought them.
I bought my links once, and they're sitting there gathering dust on my bookshelf because they just weren't worth it. And I had 2 rather than 4, so for 2 missile shots.
Yeah.
Every time you didn't have to move, they just weren't worth it.
Into a big block of T-55s.
Yeah, that didn't work out for me so good.
Yeah, and lots of jets have anti-helicopter too, and vehicles.
Yeah.
So they've got really. Yeah, they're just. I find they're overpointed. So it'd be nice if they went down.
So we would suggest to Battlefront that maybe there's some helicopter tweakage that needs to happen. I mean, perhaps because that wasn't something that they were looking to include particularly, but maybe they felt the Hinds had a particular urgency for that change.
But I mean, look,
they are one of the things you'd use against those NATO tanks that are getting the
cheaper.
Decreases.
Yeah, that's true. So that makes sense, I suppose. You're going to see more of them, so they need to cost a little bit more. So Mr. Pink makes a very interesting point with, so dynamic points are an attempt to fix a system, which is cool. And the granularity is something we've talked about before. And again, we'll see more of that when we go into the AA. But it's that thing of at very low points, they couldn't do 50%. They had to do either 33 or 67 because changing at one point or the other. There needed to be some like half points that they could do. And putting half points in would just be bananas.
Yeah. Well, they had done half points in mid-war, and just that they've kind of made it so you can't buy something with a half a point. So you buy them in groups of 2s or 3s or like, you know what I mean? So it is, but I've seen a few people sort of say, "Oh, look, we should go back to the V3000 point or whatever 1500 point system." And
I remember sitting there deciding whether or not I was going to spend 5 points to put a 50 cal on my British Shermans or not. And, thinking, I've got enough points for like 1 so the commander can have a 50 cal.
Yeah. And some of it, I do like in V4 or Team Yankee where when you buy the tank, it comes with everything that the tank, it just has it or it doesn't.
Yeah, it has it or it doesn't.
I like that. So, but well, you could argue though, but yes, there should be some granularity.
I'd be wondering about just doubling the points for everything and going to like a 200 point system, and that would fix those issues because you don't need to be closer than what would then become 1 point, not half a point. That would give you increased granularity on that and not actually change the system all that badly. But I mean, 100 points was chasing. That had become all the rage for miniature games like 40k and stuff, hadn't it?
No, well, it hadn't, I don't think.
No,
40K,
I thought it was a trend.
I don't know. I stopped playing Warhammer Fantasy and stuff when it was like 1,000 or 2,000 point games, which I thought worked. I know there was things like War Machine and some other stuff that had like really lower. But it's that skirmish stuff, which this is not a skirmish game. Like, anyway, no. I just think, and I thought, it's easier for young kids. Like, man, kids can count. Like, like
we spend millions of tax dollars to teach them these skills.
Yeah. If your lowest common denominator and you're chasing some bloke that can't count above 10, they're probably not going to be playing your game anyway. So,
Oh, savage there, Adam. Savage. Okay, that's a point, I guess. Sorry, you've done me in. Okay, so let's go to AA. I hope you don't mind, Ben. Ben did a lot of work on this, and then I simplified the hell out of it last night so that I could fit it onto one slide. But basically, the Soviet, East German, and Polish changes to their AA are pretty much the same, and it's all roughly 50%, except where it couldn't be done that way because
Yeah, I
of
think
rounding
in your
errors.
first one there might be a bit of. I think the Gaskins went from 1 to 2 to 2 to 4 on the
Oh,
Soviet one.
okay. So I might have
Yeah,
screwed that
so
one
that's
up. Okay.
100% for the
Whoops.
Gaskins.
Okay.
So yeah, the Gaskins went up the most, but they were
Yep.
the bargain basement option anyway.
Yeah.
So so 4 points. What is it? Yeah, 4 points for 4 is still 1 point apiece, and they're still
Yep.
really cheap.
Fair enough.
So where they went up majorly is the Tunguska and the Gecko, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
they're
the Tunguska makes sense because that's got guns and missiles and
yeah, but you didn't see a lot of them before they had a huge increase. So I'm not sure how that'll go.
yeah, fair enough. I've got a box of them
It
here
seems
somewhere.
it seems to be the. I mean, they look cool. It
Yeah.
Yeah,
seems
they
to
look
be the
really
missiles.
cool. Yeah.
It seems to be the missiles that they're concerned about because when we get to the West Germans, you look at the Gepards and they've gone up, but I would still take them at whatever
Yep.
points they were because they just rip holes in anything that's lower armored. Yeah.
Mr. Pink is saying it doesn't need to be 1,750 points, but 200, 500, or 1,000 would fix those
Yeah.
issues. Yeah. I think you're right there, and that's they went from too much granularity with, do I need to add a paint job to this for 2 points or whatever, or there was a lot of fiddling around with lists, and that's been simplified, but maybe not granular enough anymore.
Yeah, I remember playing Warhammer Fantasy that had 1,000 points. A 2,000 point was a game, and you'd sit there and you'd agonise over, am I going to spend 1 point on a shield? And really, if it just came with everything,
Yeah,
like
you either buy it or you don't.
Points, yeah, you just have it. Yeah.
No, good point. And Ben, so the Czechoslovaks are.
Yeah, so if you see their numbers are a bit bigger because I think they had to round their scores up. So
So what we've got is a lot more.
Yeah, if you look at the Gecko, it went up, it doubled instead of only going up by 50%.
Yeah, fair enough.
And as well as I think you mentioned the BTR ZD, that also because of the rounding, it couldn't
that got
go up to
spanked.
4, it had to go up to 5.
Yep.
So just the Gecko, what's the firepower on that Gecko? Because that's a missile platoon.
Gecko's that big bus thing.
And it's a big missile too.
Because for me, it looks like
firepower.
It looks like anything with a long range and a 4+ or 3+ firepower. What is it? Yeah, it's 3+ firepower and with a 72-inch range and 3 rate of fire 3. Yep. So that's serious missiles coming in.
Yeah, although I mean they've tweaked the Praga as well. I'm looking at that. That's like doubled in price. That's if I haven't screwed up the copying and pasting of all the numbers in this.
A similar like bargain basement to the Gaskins. So I think for the really cheap no-brainer ones, they wanted to put the price up a bit more for those ones.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I don't know what the ZSU 57-2 got put up to now that I mention it.
Right, okay.
Because I think that would have gone up as well.
Oh, we might have to look at those. Dennis is saying, like your spreadsheets with original points, new points, and change, will those be available anywhere to download? Hadn't planned to, because they're a bit of a mess. That was something I threw together a couple of days ago, and we've been tweaking like mad ever since. So we don't have a full set. We've just got, we picked a couple of nations each and did stuff. So no, but it wasn't too difficult to do. So a little bit of Excel work that's probably better than mine. would make that fairly simple. All right, so are we done with AA for the Warsaw Pact?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, here we go. Finished ZSU 57.2, went from 3 to 5, but it was underpriced from the start, so yeah.
So
Yeah.
roughly 100% again. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Johan made a point about the rapiers that, I think we all kind of thought that they were a bit cheap.
Yeah, they were ludicrously cheap. So when I saw that they had more than doubled in price, I'm afraid my response as a British player was, yeah, fair enough. I've gotten away with that for a while.
Yeah, I've had it good for a while.
I've had it good for a while. So yeah, no, I'm willing to pay the points for those. And I have for several years just swept the skies clean. Again, I was kind of sneaky because I took Toad Rapier as well. I had the minis for that, so I stopped taking the tracked ones and took the Toad ones, which worked out okay, but couldn't go anywhere.
Well, I don't need to with the range.
Yeah, that's right. Just plonk them anywhere on the table with line of sight, and away we go. It was great. Okay, so Adam, this is another one of yours.
Yeah, so the Leopard 2A5s, they seem to be the big winners here. They've gone roughly 30%, or a little touch over 30% in price decrease. So that just means even more small Panzer Grenadier platoons I can take with my Leopard 2 Panzerzags, I guess.
Michael Wayne saying I might be able to use my 3 Leo 2A5s. Yep.
That's right. Yeah, definitely.
At these sort of points, absolutely.
So that you've got 16 more points to spend now, basically. And the Leopard 2s probably aren't as expensive, but they're still going down a decent whack. So like if you got 4 Leopard 2s previously, you can probably take another 3 Leopard 1s to go with them.
Oh man, do you remember when 11 points a tank was like outrageous? And now we've had so many super tanks. It's like, how much was the Leclerc each?
Yeah, people are like, I can only take 5 Leopards or 4 Leopards or something. It's like,
So the West Germans are going to get to use their A5s, their super heavies. So that
well, I think you'll probably bring at least 1 unit now, and then some other stuff to support them. Or, I mean, I like 3. Look, 4's great, but for me, 3 is, if you can't look after them and your dice are lucky, they tend to hang around. And,
whereas I know how my dice rolling goes, and I play like crap, so I need 4s.
I've got a friend that he's just go, I'm going to lose and I'm going to roll crap. And he does. And, where I'm like, no, my dice are going to work and they'll be great. And it does. So, I mean.
Oh, it's a mindset.
Maybe I should try that.
I'm a big proponent of mindset. Like, I'm of course I'm going to roll 3 6s. And then, bing, bing, bing. So.
Yeah, anyway. Again, you manufacture the dice. So, I'm not actually implying or saying anything, but
No, only
it's funny that your dice seem to roll really well.
Yeah.
Does that mean whenever you get a shipment in, you sit there rolling and just pick out all the ones that
and work
roll
out the
lots
best
of
ones?
sixes?
That's
yeah,
it,
absolutely.
and then pass all the other shit ones off to them.
Man. Ben, did you have any comment on this one? I thought we cut you off a second ago.
No. I think are the Leopard 2s better than the Leopard 2A5s, you reckon? Because they used to be, they were 11 points each, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So what does that tweak them down?
To 9 points and a bit?
9, 8 and them.
8.
8
and change, yeah. So that is a significant decrease. I mean, it's 23%. It says there on the spreadsheet, but
so either take 2 or 4, and you'll get the best decrease.
Yep, absolutely. By 2%. What's 2% between friends?
8 shots of AT-22. That's not bad, right?
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah. And 2 on either 8 shots on the move or 8 shots sitting still. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I tend to move them then if just makes it harder. So for the enemy.
Alan's saying he hopes this will all restart Team Yankee games at the club, as a lot of NATO players got put off being so outnumbered.
I always used to run leopard
Well,
ones.
you still will be outnumbered, but you'll get more of your toys on the table.
Yeah. I also think the outnumbered thing was a scale issue too, because I remember when we were setting up our games, you were right across the table, and
Yeah, we
by the
did.
time you'd
Yeah,
come on and I'd
short
set mine on, so we're 12 inches in each, and then somebody does a spearhead move or whatever, and suddenly,
Yeah.
like, we're only 18 inches apart. It's like, my
Yeah.
guys would have bugged out. The British thing was find the longest sight lines you can, shoot the shit out of them until they get to within 1,000 metres, and then pull back to the next position, which you just can't do with this. They're in your soup right up, and that's why you get swarmed by T-55s.
Yeah, I always used to play on bigger tables with Team Yankee.
Yeah.
8x5.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What's your
some of the
experience
mega
with that,
battles, they
Ben?
do look really cool.
They do look really cool, but
Yeah.
I mean, your T-55s are right there real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, so especially short ways. With the T-55s, you don't want to move a lot. You just want to get into a good spot to start shooting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly if you've paid for missiles for them, right?
Oh, the missiles are really good. I used them against Elliot. I reckon they're a game changer for the T-55s.
All right.
NATO player gets 25% more points. Yeah, I'd go with that. Oh dear. So what are we looking at now? West German AA. So this is stuff you've been alluding to this all along. So Gepards.
So you look at your
40%.
Rolands, they're your big long-range missile units with is it 3 or 4 plus? I think it's a 3 plus firepower. No, it's only 4 plus. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and not 56 range, so not as bad as those Soviet missile ones were, but they've got a significant price increase.
Yeah.
Like a lot. And I actually think that's too much for what they do. They don't have any other role.
Yeah, so Roland can't shoot at anything else.
Yeah, and 20 points for, 6 is a lot. I probably would never bring 6.
6 is a lot. But if you bring in 4, that's still 13 points.
Yeah, I kind of would argue that maybe not quite so expensive, but they still should have gone up.
Yeah, again, that's pretty much track rapier points, though, as well. I mean, track rapier went up to 14.
But the thing, like, see...
the 4 geckos are 12, yeah.
Yeah, but see that little unit of 2 Rolands? That was always the 2... Like, you can always bring 2. That's 6 shots.
Yeah. And as long as they don't get shot at, you'd be all right.
Yeah. So I guess now you've got that little cheap unit that you'd bring to flesh out your formation and give you that AA, where now you've probably got to pay. I would accept 6 points.
Yeah.
I think that I'm not sure why they've gone to 7. That just that little bit extra.
And again, I have caught a number of people because with my Australians, I always take at least 2 sneaky man pads as well. So everybody's worried about the tracked rapier when they roll up.
Yeah.
And then it's the little guys with, not Stinger, the Red Eye.
Yeah.
That,
well, the thing with those missile teams is that you usually have to take the Roland before you can take the Red Eyes.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. So you're actually paying double. It's not like I can just bring Red Eye teams.
Yeah.
I have to take the other ones before I can take those
to
as well.
unlock them. Yep.
To unlock them. So
that's a good point. I'd forgotten about that, but yes, you're entirely correct.
Is that why the Red Eye teams got put up, but not any of the man pads for Warsaw Pact? Because you have to take them as part of an AA unit rather than a mech unit.
That's an even bigger penalty then.
Warsaw Pact didn't have any man pads go up.
But what I mean is like... Sorry.
I was going to say, Trekam wants us to say man pads. Is that because it sounds like we're talking about men's sanitary products or what? I don't know.
Man pads?
Man pads, yep.
Man pads. Man cat.
Or is that like, this is my man pad, my streaming studio. So, but yeah, I think that's enough of that diversion. What were you saying, Adam, before I rudely interrupted you?
Just so if where Ben said, well, the Manpad missiles that the Soviets have, or Warsaw, don't even need. You don't have to take your missile teams, missile
put 'em in a
vehicles
mech.
before you.
Yeah.
They just
No.
either go in the unit. Whereas
Because they're part of the infantry units, though, aren't they?
with the French and the West Germans, at least, you have to take the Rolands before you can take the missile teams.
And that's an organizational issue, isn't it? So the West German stuff was division level assets that combined all of that somewhere, whereas they were much more organic with the Soviets. A couple of dudes with grails would track along. Yeah.
So, and it's interesting, like, I mean, it looks like the Red Eye times the 3 Red Eye team, why would you take those? Because you're paying extra for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know that's just, I think, an extra penalty that maybe they haven't thought of. So, yeah. Whereas the Capards, look, they've gone up. They probably did need to go up because they were pretty cheap.
Yep. And Rapier needed to go up. For what it did to people, that thing was too cheap. James is saying maybe look at 10 or 12 instead of 13 to 14 points, which would be useful feedback to give to Battlefront, I think.
Yeah, I agree that they need to go up. Especially the missile ones. Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Oh, hey, we finally got to one that I did. British forces. So Challenger becomes cheaper, although not by a huge amount. So we're talking, 18% for vanilla ones. The Rome War ones get much cheaper. And that extra little bit of armor on the Rome War ones has been quite useful, because I think I took those with the ones I played against you with, didn't I, Ben?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
But,
and that little bit of extra armor was good.
Yeah, and I had a lot of AT-21. It was just bouncing off everywhere.
Yeah.
That points difference, so that they've discounted a lot with the Rome Wars, obviously suggests that they overvalued that armor
that was
previously.
Yeah. No, fair enough. And then I've got the AA in there. So, blah, blah, blah. What do we got? Chieftain Marksman. So that's gone up. 6 to 9 or 4 to 6, depending on how many you take. Again, it's roughly the 50% until you get to the Spartan blowpipe, where they hit the granularity issue.
Have you used the Marksman before, Harry?
No, I have a box of them
the
completely unassembled. Sorry, is it?
Is it like a sort of like an all-purpose AA tank that you can use, like
the
Gepard? Yeah,
absolutely. And I've never taken them, never used them, but it would be interesting.
Yeah, especially like MP spam, stuff like that. Yeah,
it's essentially the same guns, just on a British track unit. So, yeah.
Michael's saying, good to see reduction for the cost of Challengers. I might get the rest of mine painted. Yeah, I went hard. I ended up buying more of them than I could ever field, because I got carried away when they got released. So I've got boxes of the damn things stored away in other boxes somewhere. So and tracked rapier. Is 14 too much? Is more than doubling the price too much? I don't know.
I think
maybe. So. Yeah. So I don't know. I will still take them at 14 points, but people might be right. That might be 1 or 2 too many.
Well, I just think if you compare it, well, they've at least got the long range and the 3+ AA.
Yeah.
So
they are pretty useful.
Whereas the Roland doesn't quite have the range and doesn't quite have the firepower. Yeah,
fair enough. So maybe Roland definitely gets put on the list to be a bit cheaper. All right, where are we? The French. Adam, we left the French for you.
Yes. So it looks it's weird how they've gone. It's 7 then 12. So their granularity is a little bit different, but they've definitely gotten cheaper, and a lot cheaper actually compared to the other Western NATO tanks. They're 37% cheaper. So Yeah, so that's good. It means more annoying little vehicles I can take for the French to annoy my friends. And I actually found it interesting that the Mephisto hot launchers got discounted.
Yeah, so that's the only anti-tank buggy that got discounted, right? No Humvee tows or anything
No,
like that.
no.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
So there'll be a good little inclusion. So the Leclerc, I mean, that's a fairly recent addition, and they were like, people were looking at 74 points going, yoinks, you know. In a 150 point list, I can't take more than a couple. So do you think this is going to change how the French lists get played a lot? I mean, the French had a lot of light stuff. So, you know, the VBLs came out and Leclerc. So they had a lot of stuff at both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. I
So
think
not a
I think
lot of
it will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people went for a lot of VBLs and stuff like that. Do you think this is going to make Leclerc
I think it will mean
more
just
competitive?
you'll bring probably one of the big. So people were like bringing only maybe 2 or 3 Leclercs.
Yeah.
This way you can bring 4 and still have plenty of. They'll be your anchor. They'll sit up the back and they'll just Death
Yeah.
Star things.
But you don't now have a list where you've got those 4 tanks and 2 other dudes in your army
Yeah,
going, we're just here to
yeah,
polish the tanks. You can actually still have some
yeah.
a reasonable force.
I'm just looking at the points of the Roland, the French Rolands compared to the
German
West
ones.
German Rolands. So they got 3 and 6. So these are actually more expensive
Yeah.
to start off with. But
Yeah.
so maybe what they're saying is that the West German Rolands were underpriced to
We're
start with.
critically underpriced. Yep.
Um,
Fair enough.
but they've also only gone up by 50%. So
And I don't think everybody's going to be running out buying AMX13 DCAs either.
yeah, but if you've got 4 Rolands, gone from 8 to 12 for the French, it's
Yep.
the same. It's the same vehicle,
Yep.
and they've gone from 6 to 13 for the West Germans.
Yep.
So why have the West Germans gone up? Like the only thing I can think of is the morale. The morale values are a bit different.
Yeah, so there are soft issues that are
Yeah.
there. Yeah, fair enough. Alrighty, so that's that, and there's some interesting stuff in there. It will be, I had thought when Leclerc came out that that was a problem, and that might have been what sparked a lot of this. That, you know, yeah, you've got a super tank, but why would you buy a box? You know,
Well,
'cause
you'd buy
you'll
one
never.
box,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Did you need a whole? Did you need a whole box?
Yeah, yeah,
Well, they did
Yeah.
3 tanks per box for the S tank, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
they did. I think that was a strategic issue though, because you can also take them as supports in a bunch of other lists that only required 3. So I think it made sense to have a smaller box for that, because if you were, who took the other S tanks? Was it the Denmark or? I can't remember off the top of my head now. Whoever it was, you got them as support choices.
Oh, I'm not. Yeah, someone got them support. Maybe Finland.
You'd have to pick
Someone got them
Finns.
as support.
Yeah, I can't remember who.
Hi to Furikuri, by the way, who's just dropping in from Germany, and he's just starting
Hello.
Team Yankee. Welcome aboard. We don't normally do that sort of call out, but you're special, so there you go.
And Mr. Pink made a good point. It's now buy 2 get 3.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
Oh no, they're on special.
yeah, permanently.
Permanently on special.
So the
everyday
Mistral
savings.
similar to Red Eye?
Yeah,
Take
they're
it,
pretty
yeah.
much the same
AA
thing.
platoon? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So you have to take the Rolands to get the Mistral.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah.
The same as yeah.
Whereas when you're an Australian, you can just take the missiles in M113s. Yeah, so they have gone up a bit. So the big issue is a big drop in M1A1s, which I was very happy about because I can now take all 4 of them for 36 points instead of
Yeah,
51.
36, very easy to fit into a list.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, 30% discount, and that's along the lines of the other heavy tanks for like the US and the Germans, and that is it's roughly 30% that you were getting for the top end of town.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's very welcome from the Anzacs. And again, I used to sneak in a pair of red eyes. When I had 2 spare points, you'd stick them in there. People would forget about them, fly their helicopters or aircraft incautiously, and get a nasty surprise.
So is that a dude poking out of the hatch of an N113 with a SAM, or is that like
It
an
is.
infantry team? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a dude in an M113 launching it out of the top of it,
okay.
which is great.
What's the RBS 70?
The RBS 70 is a Swedish Bofors missile that's laser guided. That's what we replaced Red Eyes with. So we didn't go Red Eye and then Stinger. We went Red Eye and then RBS 70. It's now
Is
been
it dual
retired,
purpose
but
in the game?
I can't remember. I think you can. I have a vague memory now that you ask. That you can, because it's laser guided, so it'll hit whatever you point the laser at. I tend not to use my AA units that way, but that's why I don't win a lot.
No, if you got them on the table, use them. That's
Absolutely.
me with my shilkers. Just
Shilka's brassing stuff up everywhere is
it's
absolutely
amazing.
what
You
it
get
was
the whole
built for.
handful of dice and you just throw it out.
Yeah. So Trekan wants to know what's happened to the EMU forces. So yeah, that's it.
We don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. Okay, so it's just longer range, more power.
Yeah.
For the RBS-70.
Yeah. So it is a more sophisticated missile, but yeah, that's cool.
Oh, it's Swedish.
Absolutely. And you don't even have to assemble it yourself before you can fire it.
Yeah, well, the RBS comes with that tripod thing with a seat on it, right? And you sit on the seat and you go...
Yeah, so it actually comes with the little manpack
like
launcher thing that you...
Yeah, ergonomically designed. Comfortable. We're not just slapping it on the side of a Land Rover or some shit.
Oh, man. Yeah. So there's plenty of stuff we didn't talk about. Pardon me. There's plenty of stuff we didn't have time to talk about.
Yeah, the Soviets had so much stuff, like so many, like 6 different kinds of tanks. And
you had done so much work, and then you sent me all those spreadsheets, and I'm going, I can't possibly put that all on slides.
And Harry's just like, yeah, whatever.
Oh, no.
My head and my face in my hands might have actually happened for a minute there. Yep. But again, we didn't realize what a big job we'd given you. It's like, oh yeah, you can do the Soviets or do the Warsaw Pact while you're there, and then it's like, oh Jesus, it's all this stuff.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So yeah, if we didn't cover the nation that you're interested in, so we didn't cover Canadians, but hopefully the general idea that heavy tanks less expensive, AA more expensive, carries through reasonably, and I think that's possibly what Battlefront wanted to represent with this, to make those boxes of expensive tanks that people had bought actually worth putting on the table. So is that going to be a difference, is something we'd have to think about. Are people going to use the feedback form and actually tell people what they like and what they don't like about this?
Yeah.
Because again, we have thought, hey, maybe some of the AA is a bit much or what have you in the discussion here. You know, the guys in the chat have been making some really, really good points. What's coming does highlight some issues like Gazelle gunslingers. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's something that's been missed. I'm trying to think of anything else that I think might be overpointed still. So, like I said, the PAH helicopters, I think they're still too expensive for what they get.
Yeah.
Apart from that, the Leopard 1 seems to be still in a good spot.
How does Apache sit? Is that really expensive?
You know, I never used one.
Because I know it has the Hellfire missile, right? That's pretty killer. So
So did its points go up or down?
there's another one of those things where it's one of those fancy toys you want to put down, but it's really
they didn't
expensive.
touch them, right? Okay. Sorry, I'm busy trying to get to the PDF on my computer.
Oh, I'm looking at the PDF as well. Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
But again, helicopters wasn't their focus, particularly in this one. I think they felt they needed to move the Hinds, but maybe, I mean, we've come up with some good ideas for stuff going up and down. I mean, why would you use?
It was just a touch.
The
they
British?
didn't belt the Hinds, so I don't think it'll affect it too much.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. They're 9 points for 2 or 18 for 4.
Yeah, with those missiles though, and rockets and guns, they're pretty versatile.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So that's what we've looked at for dynamic points. I think what we've come up with though, and if I'm getting a feeling from the chat, a lot of people are saying that dynamic points are a good idea. Battlefront's approach of just concentrating on a couple of things, tweaking those, and then moving on to something else is actually not a bad strategy. But yeah, if we have feedback on specific systems, are they up too much or down too much or whatever, at least there's a mechanism for being able to feed that back to them before this stuff all goes live. Have they said when that's going live, or is it just after a period of time?
I think they said there's a month to give feedback, so this is from end of August. They will stop accepting feedback on the Google form.
Yeah.
And then I would imagine it's probably going to take between 2 to 4 weeks for them to agree on what changes, and then
look at all of that.
Then bring it out. So yeah, my suggestion is that if anything that you feel real passionately that is wrong or needs to be tweaked still, please do the Google form. And also anything else that you think still needs to get worked on, like the Gazelle gunslingers, for me, the PAH helicopters. You can put, I'm pretty sure you can put in, I think this should be, changed to.
Yeah.
And the more people that they get saying, yes, we think this is a problem, then the much more likely, like they want the feedback. That's their biggest.
Yeah, you talked about with that the Flames of War points, right? You were really keen for feedback on that.
So they really they want the feedback. Please give them the feedback. But just ranting on Facebook, they're not going to.
Yeah, I know Battlefront are very sensitive about criticism. I've been doing this for nearly 8 years now on YouTube, and they are very sensitive to what people say to them. But to be honest, like, people are quite happy to take a big stick and go to town on Battlefront. And I mean, they're gamers like us who, have created a game, selling miniatures, doing all that sort of fun stuff. So yeah, if there's stuff we like or don't like, there are ways of doing that rather than just beating them with a stick.
And I think you'll find over the year, like I kind of agree with Harry, they can be sensitive to criticism, but I think it's often how it's delivered. Whereas if you're saying, look, I really think you need to look at this, do it how they would like, you're probably going to get a much higher likelihood of a result than just type it in Facebook, good Battlefront shit. Blah, blah, blah.
There's some online warriors on Facebook.
And sure,
although I may have said unkind things about the open fire Shermans.
Oh,
very early on.
They were terrible.
They were terrible.
But I think they've owned that, and I think now they've brought out some really awesome plastic kits. In fact, I still love my metal infantry. Don't get me wrong, and I'll be metal infantry till I die. But the plastic vehicle kits and gun kits are great. If anything that I can swap out for plastic now, I tend to.
Oh, so the 40mm Bofors for the British in plastic versus I have a set of 40mm Bofors guns for my British forces that I bought. And I cleaned up all the parts and I had a look at it. I have never glued them together. There's like 10,000 tiny weeny little parts.
Oh, the metal ones?
The metal ones.
Yeah,
it's like, no, I'll have the plastic ones. They're great. They're good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I might be able to glue it all together, but if I sneezed on it, the thing would just explode. There's just so many tiny contact surfaces.
Yeah, you're like, I'll glue this together, and then it's like, oh no, my fingers are shit.
I have a friend who's a pharmacist, and he actually gave me a big bottle of acetone because I kept gluing myself to myself. So now my wife can come and rescue me and dribble acetone between my fingers until I'm released.
Yeah. But I mean, look, I really think, from my view, like dealing with them that I do, I think they've got a lot better with their feedback, and I think they're acting on the feedback a lot better. So, like, I know I saw a bit of a whinge on Facebook today about why is it taking so long for stuff to get back in stock? People want to get back in, and yeah, I agree. Some stuff does take too long, but unfortunately, you got to realize that I think people are comparing them to Games Workshop, where Games Workshop's this massive company with hundreds of people and their own factory.
I'm surprised how small Battlefront is.
It's not a huge company.
It's not huge.
And for the amount of product that they pump out.
Yeah. And Trekan's just making an interesting thing about annoyed at how Battlefront handles the community. Just ask Games Workshop players. Yeah, no, Games Workshop will come around to your house and just throw stuff through your windows because they're bored.
Yeah, with lawyers.
Yeah, Battlefront. Yeah, with lawyers. Yeah. So no. And again, Battlefront make really good stuff. So I know sometimes in my reviews you say stuff, Centurion barrels, but
USAA guns.
USAA guns. So you say stuff, but that's because their stuff is generally really very good.
And you're surprised when it's...
And you're surprised. Or
the odd now and then when it's not.
Yeah. It's like, why did that happen? Or I remember the Warriors are a really nice kit, but there are 5 parts for the hull that need to go together with interlocking surfaces. Like, you need a friend to be able to assemble it. Like, you hold these 2 bits and I'll drop these other 3 bits in and make sure they all mesh together. And yet, that's because most of the time, you can throw a Battlefront kit against the wall and most of the bits will like fall into place.
Yeah. I think what's really happened with them is that they got slammed during COVID and they had multiple closures of the factory when, oh yeah, we're back. Oh no, there's
no, we're not.
And they closed down again. And they're trying to catch up. Like, and someone sort of said, well, why can't I get whatever? And and someone said, rightly, I think stuff comes out in waves. So like you saw that the 80th anniversary of D-Day, they've got all those redone of all the Panzer Lehr and the second 21st Panzer Division.
Yeah, Modelling for Advantage did those, didn't they?
They did.
They did boxes of them. And they're great boxes. And I don't know if you've actually looked at what comes with them. They've actually got they've redone special token sets and dice, and they've redone the old limited edition objectives, which I love that stuff. Like I'm collecting objectives, like so. But they do them in a big run, and then that's it. They won't make them again for, if not ever, for a long time. So, I know it's frustrating for someone that kind of joins and goes, "Oh, look, I want this cool stuff," but it's done in runs, and until
the lingering effects of COVID are still happening. Like, my wife works in a pharmacy, and as you say, stuff gets produced. Like, the factory will produce a bunch of this particular drug. Like, they're not producing it all the time. They produce a run of it. And if a drug suddenly gets very popular and prescribed for stuff, and it runs out. It's like, well, we're not set up to produce that. There's not a slot in the schedule for another 18 months. So, if you want that drug, that's just tough. Or they have to drop something else down the schedule. So,
and that's what happens with BF. When they go, this is our schedule, and then they go, oh shit, we're out of M1 Abrams tanks, but we weren't scheduled to do them again for 6 months. Now, when they've got to slide it back in, that pushes everything else back.
And how much stuff did they release last year? Like, I couldn't review it because it was all just coming out too fast.
Well, you know what was funny? The whole thing from V3 to V4, apart from them wanting to change the point scale and new rules and whatever, was to simplify their production schedule so they didn't have 10 billion SKUs. And it's kind of worked, but I still think they got heaps, like massive compared to what smaller companies or similar companies of the same size.
Well, when they took the cards out, they're starting to consolidate it back down again, like with the generic one box, the generic M113 box.
That's right. Yeah. For Team Yankee, at least, and the same.
Taking the cards out ground my gears, because that was a core promise they made going into version 4, was that you would buy the box and you would get everything you needed to play a unit. But now that I've had a chance to think about that and digest it...
Yeah, one leopard box for every nation,
Yeah, man, that's the smart play. Just buy the card sets. I'm willing. I'll put my hand up for another 15 or 20 bucks for a card set.
But also, the problem is that guys kind of join now and they want, like, I know US D-Day unit cards, for example, are hard to get. So, I mean, what I should go through is all my excess cards have got stacks of them about this big, and then just start putting them on eBay or something. But
I have regularly donated some to people around the place who've said, oh, has anybody got one of these? It's like, 15 of those somewhere. How many do you want?
Yeah. But,
oh, dear.
Yeah, I think it's something they are aware of. Yes, they're working on it, but unfortunately, it's just... Yeah. And they keep on bringing out cool new stuff. So
they do. Their release schedule is just nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially those World of Tanks ones that we haven't seen yet. They're pumping those out.
Oh yeah, that's all that World of Tanks money from actually that'd be from Russia, wouldn't it?
Cyprus.
Oh, Cyprus. Okay.
It is Russia, but it's through Cyprus.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we won't talk about that. But the M48s are coming, Ben.
Oh, I'm excited for those.
They're in the next release wave of...
I'm really excited to see those.
Yeah, so they're definitely coming.
What's the M48?
The M48 US Patton tank.
Oh, Patton, right.
Yep. So yeah, that's in the next release wave for World of Tanks, which would be very cool.
Yeah, so that'd be the post-war version, right? With the, yeah. I wonder if they'll have that the modernization. That'd be really cool to see that.
That'd be interesting because that's something they're going to have to do for World of Tanks. Would they have put all that on the sprue?
They tend to future-proof their sprues.
They do.
So if they know they're going to release it, if they know there's a high likelihood they're going to release it later, I would think
because they held off the National Guard units in Red Dawn, and they said, "Well, just use M60s for them." So, we might see them if we get M48s.
That would be nice.
Yeah, no, it'd be cool.
So, now I know we are massively over time. We keep trying to do this in an hour, guys, and then we waffle on and stuff. So, thank you for the 21 people who are still watching us. But Trekan made a really interesting point that I just want to touch on briefly, if I might. Tournaments and competitive gaming, do your own scenarios and lists when you play with a friend. Now, interesting, the tournament I organised, the Team Yankee tournament several years ago, wasn't a tournament as such. It was an organised play day. So we weren't worried about, we were getting a whole bunch of new people in, and we weren't doing you won, you lost, you suck, you don't kind of stuff. And that's I think there's a lot to be said about the benefits of that. Just putting it together. You want to try a weird list that's not supported by the army lists? Play with a friend. Don't worry about tournaments and competition. I would quite happily just turn up to an organised play day rather than, I don't want to win a prize, I don't want to get a medal, although I do like the ones I won ages ago, but never mind. But yeah, just a scenario one.
Well, most of the fun's just rocking up and playing with a mate or with someone new, new mate. So
yeah, no, I love seeing all the armies and all the models and the paint jobs. Like when I went to that first Flames of War one last year, I saw so many models that I'd never seen before, and it was just great.
And it is great seeing, even my paint jobs and stuff like that are not that horrible.
They're pretty good.
Although we're a bit stuffed here because we've got, Ben's East German army is absolutely beautiful. I always love playing against that. We've got Christian who rocks up with his stuff.
Oh, wow.
And Adam, your stuff is amazing
Adam,
as well.
Yeah, those loose were really good. I couldn't stop looking at them.
Yeah, so there's all of that. But Adam, we have talked about the Pacific. I've been doing a ton of reading about Milne Bay, Kokoda Trail, WoW. So if the Pacific, when it comes out, has the Australian Commandos in it, WoW was their big battle. They stole an airfield from the Japanese and defended it to use as an airhead to get over and take Salamaua and Ley. So it's like, wow, why didn't I know about that?
There's some awesome, but when you look in the little, and that's the thing with the Pacific Theatre, it's neglected. It's like the redheaded stepchild of World War II.
Yeah.
And there's so many awesome battles that you're only just hearing about it now because they're really getting the books. And I've said this before, there's a YouTube program called World War II TV. Yeah. And they do like Pacific Week, Eastern Front Week, and they get historical authors that write awesome books, and they basically talk about this battle and that battle. They've talked about that one that Harry's talking about. They've talked about Salamaua and Ley. If you love your World War II, check out that channel. It's awesome.
But even, because we discussed the idea of trying to figure out how can you write little missions for those. So Boona and Gona was Australians and US troops, green US troops, digging Japanese out of very well-prepared bunkers in swamps.
They're in a swamp. Japanese are in, and the US generals are like, no, our overhead recon photos show that.
Yeah, it looks fine.
There's nothing there. It's great. What do you guys have the problem with? And the problem is that you got Japanese troops dug into bunkers that are dug into the ground and with shit on top that makes it look like there's nothing there. And they reckon it was the most heavily defended area in all the Pacific, and the Aussies and the US troops took months.
They were grinding their way through doing infantry attacks, and then they got 9 Stuart tanks rolled up. And in that afternoon, they cleared a whole bunch of bunkers until 8 of the Stuarts got knocked out in half an hour by a 25mm AA gun that the Japanese snuck in somewhere. So that would be lovely as a scenario, though. You've got a bunch of Stuarts, you've got a couple of these AA guns. What can you do with that?
I think we should do it. When
I think we should. And Milne Bay, you've got 2 Hargo tanks and a bunch of 37mm guns versus the Americans didn't have any troops there. They had construction troops. But when there was the final battle against over the number 3 airfield, they backed up their half tracks and just put 50 or 30 cals on the back of them and just hammered the Japanese as they tried to push across. That would be a hell of a thing to see on a table.
Yeah.
And nobody cares about points. It's like, you get this, you get to choose out of that, you get lots of Bren guns and Vickers guns, you get... it would be fantastic. But that's just something that we talked about a while ago. Yeah. So, we've been an hour and 45 minutes. We need to stop, guys. I need to go inside where it's warm. because it's going to be 1 degree here tonight. Does anybody have any closing thoughts? Ben, thank you so much for coming in and
Oh, no,
taking
it's
the
great.
chair.
Yeah, no,
We
it's
even
good.
let you talk a bit. It was good.
Yeah.
Our safe word, by the way, is "shut up, Harry,"
Yeah.
to be able to turn me off for a minute. So thank you, and hopefully we'll have you coming forward.
Yep.
That
Yep,
would
no
be
problem.
great. So we
And,
really appreciate it. And
yeah, I
Christian, the
think-
Scale Traitor, if you're watching,
Yeah.
we're still having fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Trekken's made a point there that they're paying a narrative campaign. I don't know if anyone's looked at those, all the scenarios, the link scenarios that are either in most of the D-Day books, or sorry, most of the Flames of War books,
Yeah,
but also in the Team Yankee books. Generally,
they
have a
look
series.
nice.
They're
Yeah.
fun. They're fun and they're great. So give those a go. You don't always have to have it rock up and have a 100 points versus 100 points battle with your mate. Try to recreate some scenarios or write your own. I think they're actually usually more fun.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
absolutely.
Red Dawn had the small skirmish scale ones, didn't they?
Yeah.
Well, they had to do something to get all the scenes from the movie in. Yeah. I really wanted to buy some of those 4x4s.
Oh, the
and,
pickups.
the pickups and the militia guys. Yeah, but I never actually got around to ordering some when they became available.
Half the fun would be scratch building your own. Put a rocket pod on the back or a mortar or.
Yeah. A Hilux with a Hind rocket pod on the back would be pretty cool.
Yeah, or a BM-24 MLRS launcher. Possibilities are endless.
Although there's a video I saw online once of in the Middle East a Hilux with a 40mm recoilless rifle in it where they elevated it too far and it blew everything out of the truck bed, like gun, back of the truck, the guys, ammunition, whatever. It all just we cleaned the truck.
I saw one where they had a Hilux with either a Hind rocket launcher, the big one on the back.
Yep.
And they had to obviously pull it with a string to get it going. And then it's like, and then the truck starts catching fire.
Lit the truck on fire,
yeah. And then,
You're not supposed to put UB-32s on things like that. You know?
Cool.
Anyway, if we talk about that too much, we'll get demonetized again. All right, guys. I think we need to call it. I need to go and make sure the fire's still on inside. Thank you very much. I hope you guys all enjoyed our look at dynamic points. And we will do this again. Our schedule has been a little irregular, but hopefully we can start picking that up.
We'll even it up.
We will even it up.
James, the snort would be great.
The snort would be great. I would get some of those. All right, guys. We will see you the next time. See you later.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.